Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one therefore can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. So no one can understand Krishna apart from one who has become a devotee by rendering service. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others, who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men and demigods within the pure view of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti or Devi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of the supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent, i.e. with any sense he can perform the activities of any other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing, and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. And this is the important part. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhakti mama vijananti yavanyash chasmi tatvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. That's the end of the purport. So we just say the Mangala Charan together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaudangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarunvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you for this opportunity. Sukadeva was meant to give class, but they asked me yesterday to cover the class. So I tried to prepare something last night. My apologies if it's not quite up to scratch, but requesting all of your blessings that we can speak something in line with our spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. So for this class, I really wanted to focus on this idea that through service, through rendering service to Krishna, this knowledge is revealed to us. So it's kind of very opposite to the modern worldview that to get knowledge you have to kind of work at it. You've got to study, you've got to research, you've got to... whereas in kind of the transcendental sphere, it's actually the opposite, that through service, through developing this love that Prabhupada talks about in the purport, developing love of Krishna, this knowledge is actually revealed. And we see this throughout so many verses. We call Om Jnana Timirandasya. This knowledge is, my spiritual master opened my eyes and he reveals this knowledge. And so many times we see this principle of knowledge being revealed to us rather than something that we acquire by our own kind of research. So I wanted to focus on that and having a look at how that actually happens, this idea of revelation. And you see it's common amongst most spiritual practices or faiths, this idea of kind of revelation, so spiritual knowledge being revealed. So we're going to explore a little bit about that. And I was actually reading yesterday one book and this whole topic came up, so I was really grateful because I was thinking, I've only got a couple of hours to prepare for class and what do I speak? So this whole topic came up, so I took some notes and I'll try to present some of that. And there was kind of three main themes that stuck out. Normally I'm not a fan of acronyms and things, but it kind of worked out. There's three things that really stuck out to me. It was seva, or service, sangha, or association, and sharanagati, or surrender. So 3 S's. Normally I'm not such a fan of these kind of acronyms and things, but for me these things really stuck out as 3 main principles of how this knowledge is revealed, at least from what I was reading. Of course there's many others. We know that through the holy name we have so much revealed through so many different practices. All 9 aspects of bhakti, things are revealed to us, but these 3 really stuck out to me, so we'll try and go through. Kripa Mahaprabhu said when you give a good class you should stick with 3 points. He said then people will remember. If you go into more points then they'll lose track. So we'll stick with these 3 points. So the first point I wanted to look at was sangha, or association. How association reveals knowledge of Krishna through association of devotees. So the first thing that the book was going through was that we have to look at where mercy comes from in its source. How is it passed on? So I have a quick question for you. Does mercy come from Krishna, or does mercy come from the devotee? Okay, yeah, it comes from Krishna through the devotee. Yeah, but Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says that Samoham sarvabhuteshu, I'm equal to all. I don't favor anyone. I'm not really involved. And the Acharyas comment that means his separated energies. So he's equal to his, which means the material energy and the non-devotees. So he's not interested in involving directly with them. But then he says, Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, mai te te shuchapyaham. Whoever renders service unto me, I'm a friend in me, and he's a friend of mine, and I'm also a friend to him. So Krishna is saying in this verse that he's more directly involved in the life of a devotee. He's a friend to the devotee. He feels their suffering. He gives them mercy more directly. So, like we said, Krishna is the source of mercy, but he doesn't get directly involved with people that are not on the spiritual path or the material energy. So then if that's the case, if he only gives the mercy to the devotees, then how does one become a devotee if Krishna doesn't give his mercy? By associating with devotees, yeah. So that's the secret, is that devotees transmit Krishna's mercy. They're empowered to transmit. Krishna is the source, but he gives the power of attorney to the devotees. And through their free will, through their discretion, they can choose who they're passing the knowledge to. In the 10th canto, there's a beautiful verse, the demigods are glorifying Devaki. I'll just read the translation for you. It says, O Lord, who resembles the shining sun, you're always ready to fulfill the desires of your devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, which is, in Sanskrit, Vancha, here it's saying Kalpavriksha, but Vanchakalpataru, Prabhupada's quoting here. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. A very amazing verse. It's kind of 2 parts. So, the first part, and Prabhupada, in the purport actually explains that mercy is coming left by the devotees or by the acharyas who have crossed this ocean in the form of their books, in the form of the material that they've left behind. So we can approach Bhagavatam in that mood that this is the boat that's been left by Srila Prabhupada to cross this ocean of mercy. And when we take that prayerful approach to the scripture, Sanatana Goswami says, Madeka Bandhu Mat Sangim Mat Guru Man Mahadana. That Srimad Bhagavatam is my guru, it's my only friend, it's my only shelter. So he has this mood of really approaching the scriptures in such a way that this is the boat across the ocean left by the acharyas. So Prabhupada says that mercy comes from the devotees in this form. But then the second part of the verse is very interesting. It says that when they take shelter of your lotus feet and they cross this ocean of material suffering, they leave behind the method by which they went across. So how to break this down, that actually Srila Prabhupada or the acharyas, they have the ability to adjust the means by which we cross the ocean of nescience. So, for example, initially Prabhupada said devotees to chant 64 rounds. That was the standard that was set. But then Prabhupada saw that the devotees were not able to do it, so then he reduced it to 16 rounds. And so Prabhupada has just changed the requirement to cross to enter the spiritual world. And Prabhupada has that power to actually change the terms by which we can go back to Godhead. And so Krishna gives that power, and that's what it's saying in this verse, that they cross the ocean and then they leave behind them the method by which they cross. They leave behind them the path. So it's an amazing truth that Krishna is subservient to the will of his devotees, to the will of the pure devotees. He's willing to accept their terms and how they want to distribute the Kripa Shakti, the mercy of the Lord. Another example of this is the pastime of Durvasa Muni and the chakra, when Ambarish Maharaj is being chased by the chakra. And Durvasa Muni is running away from this weapon, and he comes to Vishnu. He goes through all of the universe and he comes finally to Vishnu. And this is Vishnu's weapon, so Vishnu's own weapon. The chakra is chasing Durvasa Muni, so he thinks, okay, this is his weapon. If I come to him and ask him to please forgive me and stop this weapon from chasing me, then I'll be okay. So he comes to Vishnu and he says, please, I'm sorry, I surrender. Please stop this chakra from chasing me. It's yours, after all. You can. And the Lord says, actually, I can't. I'm sorry. It's my weapon, but I can't stop it. He says, only if you go to Ambarish Maharaj, only if you go to the devotee and ask him. And then he gives this beautiful verse, why he's able to do that. He says, Sadhavo hridayam mayam, that I'm in the heart of the devotees, and therefore whatever they want, whatever their desire is, I'm bound by that, by their love. So it's very, very amazing truth of Krishna consciousness. So that Krishna's mercy is following the mercy of the devotee. Or in technical terms, the Kripa Shakti is the ingredient cause, is called in Sanskrit the Upadana Karana. And the mercy of the devotee is the effective cause, which is the Nimitta Karana. So just like you have clay, but until a potter shapes it and bakes it and turns it into a plate, then the clay on its own is useless. But you need the person to kind of have the expertise to do that. So in the same way, the devotee is the same. The Kripa Shakti of Krishna is there, the mercy is there. But until the devotee turns that into something accessible for us, then it's no use on itself. And so therefore, mercy of Krishna is following the mercy of the devotee. And 11th canto expands on this a little bit. There's a beautiful verse which says, Nirapeksham munim shantam, nirvainyam samadarshanam, anuvrajyam maham nitya, purvyayat angri renubi. It says that with the dust of this is a very beautiful verse, with the dust of my devotees' lotus feet, I desire to purify the material worlds, which are situated within me. Thus, I always follow the footsteps of my pure devotees, who are free from all personal desire, wrapped in thought of my pastimes, peaceful, without any feelings of enmity, and of equal disposition everywhere. Jai Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So, incredible verse that with the dust of my devotees' feet, I want to purify the material worlds, and I'm actually following behind them, following in the dust. It's from 11th canto. I don't have the verse number written down. 11, 14, 15. Nirapeksham munim shantam. Yeah, so amazing. Krishna's following in the dust of his devotees' footsteps. And therefore, in the same way, wherever the devotee goes, wherever the devotee by his free will is giving that mercy, then Krishna is following behind. So Krishna himself is seeing himself as a servant of a devotee. He's following behind in the dust. So when he sees others are doing that and acting in that way, then he's very happy as well, because he himself is saying that I'm following in the dust of my devotees. So if another devotee is doing the same, if someone's doing the same, then Krishna is very happy. And this humility of being the servant of the devotees really wins Krishna's heart. And every morning we sing the Samsara Dava verse. It kind of explains this principle, how Krishna's mercy is like an ocean of water, and the Samsara Dava Nanalida Loka, the spiritual mercy, is like the clouds, and he draws up that mercy from the ocean, and then he moves across and he distributes that to the devotees. So we sing that every morning. It's explaining this principle. So we understand that mercy is coming from the devotees, or through the devotees, coming from Krishna through the devotees. And similarly, if a devotee is not pleased with you, then that flow of mercy dries up, because Krishna is following the devotees. And if the devotees are not happy, then that mercy dries up. And oftentimes I feel like we can feel it also. If you do something, or you look back and you've felt like you've displeased your spiritual master or senior devotees or something, then you can kind of feel that things become a little bit dry. The chanting becomes a little bit drier. Maybe you've had that experience. I definitely have. So we need to be kind of carefully look at, if we find that things are becoming dry, we should carefully look back and think, okay, what did I do? Rupa Goswami did this actually. One time he was in trance. It's quite a well-known story. He was absorbed in meditating on Krishna's pastimes. He was completely in trance. And in trance, he started to laugh because something was being revealed to him. He was watching or seeing certain pastimes. And he started to laugh. And he laughed out loud, although he was in trance. And at the time, there was one pilgrim walking past. And he thought he was laughing at him. And so he became a little bit upset, because it's like, why is he laughing? Rupa Goswami, he's like, why is he laughing at me? And so Rupa Goswami's trance immediately broke, and he lost, and he was bewildered. Like, what happened? What did I do? He immediately thought, what offense did I commit? What offense did I cause? And so he straight away went to Sanatana Goswami and asked, what did I do? How can I resolve this? I lost my trance like that. I must have caused some offense. So Sanatana Goswami said, you should cook a feast, or serve a feast to all the devotees in Vrindavan, and the person who doesn't come, that's the person you'll find out who you offended, and you go to that person, you offer your obeisances, and you beg for forgiveness. So that's the mood that we should humbly beg, and really pray to our spiritual guides to reveal this knowledge, to be merciful. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Krishna se tomara, Krishna diti pado, tomara shaktiyache, amito kangal Krishna Krishna boli, tai tava pachi pachi. Krishna is yours, you have Krishna, and I'm just running behind you, shouting Krishna Krishna. Please be merciful to me. Krishna Kaviraj also gives an example in CC. He says that Premadana vina vyartha daridra jivan dasakari vetana mohr deha premadan. He says, without love, my life is useless. Without love of Krishna, my life is useless. He says, therefore I'm praying to you, please accept me as your servant, and in exchange, as my salary for being your servant, and please give me love. Please give me ecstatic love as my salary. That's all I want. So we really have to have that mood of praying to the devotees, praying to be a servant of the devotees, and begging for their mercy. Prabhupada said that what was that? They were feeding some ducks, I think. Maybe some of you know this. They were feeding some ducks. And Prabhupada had some bread, and one duck was quacking loudest, and Prabhupada was just giving all the bread to this one duck. And the devotees asked Prabhupada, why are you not giving to the other ducks? And Prabhupada said, he's quacking the loudest. So he's asking for the mercy. He said the same way in our spiritual life, when we're asking for the mercy, then we'll get it. So if we really want their mercy, we have to be ready to humble ourselves for it. Jad Bharat Maharaj says to Rahuganath, not Jad Bharat Maharaj, Jad Bharat, I guess he's a Maharaj, but says to Maharaj Rahugana, he says if someone wants to realize the truth, they need to do this. They need to smear their body with the dust of a pure devotee. He says if someone wants to realize the absolute truth, they have to do this thing. And there's other examples in the Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami says that if one hasn't received the dust of a devotee on their head, then their life is useless. Very, very strong, but just emphasizing this point that to be a humble servant of the devotees of the Vaishnavas is so powerful. CC is also full of examples of this, pastimes where people are really asking for the mercy. In the pastime of Kalidas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there's 3 most powerful things for achieving Krishna consciousness. Anyone know what those 3 most powerful things were? Yeah, you say the English? Dust. Food remnants, dust, and bathing water from the feet. Yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that these are the 3 most powerful things for awakening. And Kalidas actually, he played a trick to. You can read we won't go into the whole thing now. It's a beautiful pastime, but he plays tricks on devotees to try and get their remnants in different ways. And then later on, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is entering the temple of Jagannath, then he quickly grabs they wash his feet, and he quickly kind of grabs the water. I'll just read the verses for that quickly. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says about these 3 things. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, by rendering service to these 3, one attains the supreme goal of ecstatic love for Krishna. In all the revealed scriptures, this is loudly declared again and again. Therefore, my dear devotees, please hear from me, for I insist again and again, please keep faith in these 3 and render service to them without hesitation. From these 3, one attains the highest goal of life, ecstatic love of Krishna. This is the greatest mercy of Lord Krishna, and the evidence is Kalidas himself. So amazing, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself speaking about the power of the devotee's dust. Okay, so what then do the devotees give you when we gain their association and their mercy? What are they actually giving? One well-known verse says, Yasya deve parabhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasyeta katityartha prakashante mahatmanaha. Who said, when we have that faith in the spiritual master, equally in spiritual master in Krishna, then the knowledge is automatically revealed from within our heart. All the conclusions of the Vedic scriptures, they're automatically revealed from within our heart by that faith and by that mercy. So we start to see things through their eyes, we start to see things through the eyes of scripture, and we actually begin to understand Krishna properly, like the verse in purport is talking about. Through this love, we start to see and understand Krishna. And so from the very beginning of Krishna consciousness to the very top end of Krishna consciousness, association is what is carrying us through. So we heard in the beginning that devotee is the one that plants the seed. They give that bhakti lata, or they start our spiritual life. And then even at the highest stage of Krishna consciousness, we're dependent on association again. So even when someone goes to the spiritual world, they still haven't fully learnt to love Krishna, but they get the association of the Nitya Siddhas, of the eternal associates of Krishna. And by their association, they develop that pure love. So right from the beginning to the very end, it's all based on association. So therefore, like we were saying, it's so important, really searching out, praying for the association of advanced devotees who can bestow their mercy and their love. And through that, we start to understand Krishna. And through association, we benefit in all other aspects of Krishna consciousness. There's one beautiful verse, Shushusho Shadadanyasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Shanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. So by service to devotees, we actually gain a taste for Vasudeva Kataruchi. We get a taste for chanting and hearing about Krishna. So through that association, it's like a positive feedback loop. We associate with devotees and we get more taste, and then we can chant more, and then we get more taste for associating with devotees. And it's, all these principles are kind of interwoven. So that was kind of a bit about association. Now the second thing we wanted to look at was service, how service reveals knowledge to Krishna, or seva. It's kind of very different to, like I was saying in the beginning, it's very different to the modern world approach that to gain knowledge we need to do something, research, study. It's like by our own endeavor we're gaining knowledge. But here it's a different principle that to gain knowledge we need to become something, not just click on Google, but we actually got to give or surrender something. We've got to give some service. Jayapataka Maharaj, when he was here, he said a beautiful thing. It really stuck with me. He said that previously, if someone wanted to study a book, so for example, someone wanted to study Srimad Bhagavatam, they'd have to give their whole life for that book. Because in the olden days, only one person, for example, only the Guru would have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam because it'd be handwritten. And so only if you approach a Guru and he teaches you can you actually read Srimad Bhagavatam and understand it. So he said to get access to one book, you'd have to give your whole life. Yeah. Now you can just click on Google and you got a PDF of every book out there. But he said it's the value of these books that before people are willing to give their whole life for the book, now people will struggle to give you £3 for a Bhagavad Gita. But it's this principle of really giving service and giving something in return for knowledge. Some tapasya. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. And so Bhagavad Gita also talks about this principle of service as a way of attaining knowledge. So we have anyone know what the most important part of the Gita is? Trick question because there's a few of them, but middle 6 chapters is one, and within that there's what's called the Chatur Shloki. So 4 kind of seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita. This is in chapter 10, text 8 to 11. So we'll just read the translations. And Krishna is talking about this principle of serving to receive knowledge. So Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me, and the wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The thoughts of pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So especially in text 10 there, it's saying that through service, but bhajatam priti purvakam, that service with love, with priti. So, a number of times Prabhupada talks about this verse and he's constantly saying this priti, this, you've got to do service with love, with some depth. And in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada talks, this verse here is saying, not the Bhagavad Gita verse, but he's saying how Krishna is able to do anything with any of his senses. The purport says that one who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing, or can perform the act of sex simply by seeing. So Krishna can reciprocate our love also in any way. He can accept, for example, on the altar he accepts through mantras the food, or through his glance he accepts our offerings. He exchanges a glance of love with the Rajvasis. That can be the same for him as a hug, just through a glance. For him it's experiences. He's not based on the external act, but it's based on the love which is offered. So for example, Krishna feels the way the pujari is offering the incense, he could feel that the same as the gopis offering their bodies to him. Because for him it's not about the physical act, it's about the love which is offered behind it. So he feels them the same, depending on with the purity in which it's offered. But until we have love, then we can't understand that principle because it's very far out. And we develop that love through service. One beautiful verse from Chaitanya Chandramrita, Chaitanya Chandradaya Nataka maybe, Yata Chandamrita, that's right. So Prabodhananda Saraswati says that Yata Yata Gauda Padada Vinde Vindata Bhaktim Kritapanya Rasi Tata Tatot Sarpati Hridaka Smad Radha Paramboja Shadambo Rasi. He says through service to Lord Chaitanya, through service to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, then we automatically receive the mercy of Krishna, we receive the shelter of Srimati Radharani. And so he says through this service we develop that love. It's not that there's a separate, but through service to Lord Chaitanya, this love awakens within us. So serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is a way to reveal this knowledge of Krishna. In the CC it says, Yari dekitadikaha Krishna upadesh, that wherever we go we should tell people about Krishna, we should introduce them to spiritual life. And through that service we directly gain Krishna's mercy, or we gain understanding and love for Krishna. So that was a little bit about service, and we'll finish on the last point, which was surrender, or Sharanagati, the 3 S's. So Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. He says, by surrender, then you'll come to me, you don't have to worry, you'll understand me. He says, ma suchaha, no need to worry. So what does surrender lead to? It leads to Krishna's grace. People are always, when you see children or small babies, people are always looking out for babies, right? They're like constantly looking after them. Why is that? Because they're kind of completely surrendered. They're completely dependent on their parents. They're completely they don't have any other shelter. And so therefore, naturally, everyone feels like, I have to look after this. I have to look after this child, it's so dependent on me. And it's the same, you see on the other side, someone who's very independent, very strong, and people are generally not looking out for them so much. He kind of, he's got himself sorted, he can look after himself. So it's the same in spiritual life. When we have that surrender, that dependence, and Krishna's there, he's there to look after us. But if we feel like on our own we can do something, and we can make it on our own strength, then we're left to our own devices, which can be dangerous. So we see that this idea of surrender leads to knowledge, and you see so many examples throughout scripture how devotees first had to surrender and then they received the mercy or knowledge of Krishna. We saw in the pastime of who's the wife of the Pandavas? Draupadi. How she was, and only at the point where she fully surrendered, she received Krishna's mercy. Or Lord Brahma, only at the point when he was ready to engage in some sacrifice, and then the knowledge of Krishna and the Vedas was revealed to him. Only when Arjuna came to the point of saying, Shishyaste mam sharimam tvam prapanam, that I'm your disciple, I'm surrendered, I don't know what to do, please instruct me. Only at that point then Krishna gave the knowledge. Last year in Mayapur, I was with my spiritual master, and he had a writer's block. He said, I can't write anymore. I just hit a wall. I can't do anything. So he said, I'm just going to take 3 days, and for the next 3 days, I'm just going to chant 192 rounds a day, and then afterwards, I'll carry on writing. So this idea that we have just got to really surrender to Krishna, and then the knowledge will be revealed. And then he said after that, his writing was just, flowed again. So it's really... And Prabhupada was so convinced of this principle that to understand Krishna, we really have to serve and chant. And I think, Keshav Maharaj, maybe you told this story, but one time there was rats in the temple, and Prabhupada asked the devotees, maybe I heard it from you. Prabhupada asked the devotees asked Prabhupada, what should we do about the rats? Should we kill them, or how should we get rid of them? What should we do? Prabhupada said, just chant. He said, what's wrong? Just chant. Am I right? No, you don't know. Okay. Sorry? I was Bhuta Bhavana food class. Okay. And so the devotees were kind of bewildered, like Prabhupada was telling us to chant to get rid of rats. And but then they realized that Prabhupada is actually emphasizing the principle that externals is a reflection of the internals. So internally, if we're not clean, if we're not practicing spiritual life properly, if we're not chanting deeply, then naturally the externals are going to be dirty, and dirt attracts the rats. And so they kind of understood that Prabhupada is really looking at the root principle is the internal cleanliness, and then naturally everything will follow from that. So by being internally clean, naturally, externally, they would keep everything clean, and then the rats wouldn't come. So Prabhupada went straight to this root that everything depends on our Krishna consciousness. And the knowledge is revealed according to our surrender. Ye yatha mam prapadyante, tam sateva bhajami aham. So how we surrender, how we approach Krishna, then we'll get that reciprocation. So through surrender, how does the surrender itself reveal Krishna? There's one beautiful verse. It says, "Premanjana charita bhakti velochanena," that we have this. Premanjana means this salve. Salve is like an ointment or a lotion to stop suffering. So when we receive this premanjana, this salve on our eyes, this ointment stops us. It allows us to see Krishna. It allows us to have knowledge of Krishna. And love allows us to see. It's very poetic, actually. It's very beautiful that love allows us to see. It kind of sounds almost cheesy, a little bit. Like, we follow your heart, or may I be guided by love. It's a little bit. But in one sense, it originates in the spiritual realm, that we should follow our hearts. In the higher sense, when the devotees achieve love of Krishna, then they're just guided by that love. They're guided by prem. In Vrindavan, sometimes the residents of Vrindavan are going to Krishna and it's dark, and they're going through the forest and they can't see, and their minds are so focused on Krishna that externally they're not aware of anything. But actually it's said that it's prema itself is guiding them to Krishna. Prema itself is actually there, bringing them to Krishna. So actually love is guiding them. And we see this even in the modern world. Karthik Chandrabhu told this story in his class the other day, on Sunday. He said that he went to a Goshala in India and they had 60,000 cows. In Vrindavan, one Goshala has 60,000 cows. And so about 10,000 of them are calves. Right, so then it comes to the time of when the calves are going to be milked. So then they release 10,000 calves into a herd of 50,000 cows. But somehow all the calves know which is their mother. Like imagine this, it's like 60,000, it's absolute chaos. For our eyes, it's absolute chaos. But for the calves, they immediately know, okay, this is my mother. And they know, oh, she's in the corner over there, 2 kilometers away, or something. So even for them, that connection, that love is guides them. So in the material realm, it's the same in the spiritual realm, that love really guides the devotees of Vrindavan and can guide us as well when we're in connection or in tune. So just in conclusion, we have a couple of minutes left. Those 3 were the main points that in the verse in the purport Prabhupada was talking about, how we can only understand Krishna when we serve Him, when we develop love for Him, and only through that revelation of then we actually receive knowledge. So we talked how these 3 principles, through Sangha, Seva and Sharanagati, or through association, through service and through surrender, we actually can develop understanding and love for Krishna. So if anyone has any questions or comments to add, we'd welcome them. Yeah, one here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your class. It was wonderful. I had this particular question about the principle you presented. Hare Krishna. Haribol. Okay. So again, thank you so much. And about the principles you presented, for example, to get the dust of the feet of the devotees and the remnants in the water and everything like that. I was just wondering about the mood and what causes this eagerness to go for it, because we do try to get the mercy, and he's saying that through that mercy, that knowledge is revealed. But am I thinking that, if I get the dust of that devotee, then I will get the knowledge? is that the mood, or this is completely something other? So my question is like, what is the intention and the mood behind it? Should we serve devotees because we want to get that knowledge revealed to us?
It's like we want something in return.
Yes. Or is there another mood?
I mean, in one sense it's... actually, I asked this question to my spiritual master. He said that isn't, like, if we're asking for something from Krishna, isn't that like not pure devotional service? So when we're chanting, we're asking, I want to love you, or I want to serve you. Isn't that like kind of being conditional? We're asking for something. And he said, no, it's okay, because by asking for love, we actually, our service will be better. So once we love Krishna, we'll be able to serve Krishna properly. So in the same way, if we're asking for the devotees or we're serving the devotees, we want to get their mercy, so we understand Krishna, we start to love Krishna. It's fine, because that will be a better servant then, or we'll increase our service. So it's good to ask, yeah. It's a spiritual thing. We want something spiritual in return. It's not material. No? Prajan Fu has a point.
There's sometimes when we try and serve the devotees, and somehow it's rejected. And like when I first lost, or was the service was, the temple commander was taken from me, I was bereft. And then, but because I did things by habit in those days, the new devotees who were taking over the ashram, or in the ashram, administrating it, told me off when I did something by habit to help clear up and prepare for the prasadam. And I had to express that I felt so hurt that you told me off when I was doing things that unconsciously I always do in preparation for the service. So I never forget that. And this is when we were serving Mahaprasadam. I was trying to prepare the surface for which we would serve the prasad, so it's ready. And then when it comes out, then everybody can get some, even the congregation. So, and I was bereft, and I didn't know what to say. I just cried inside.
Yeah. It's good to have attachment to service. Prabhupada said that's samadhi. To the Bhakti Shiviris, he said, by your absorption in this service, that's samadhi. So it's nothing wrong with being attached to our service.
But sometimes one quick comment. But if you look at different personalities through the Bhagavatam, you often feel that their mood is like, they feel like they're sinful, they're offenders. So then taking these three, they feel like purified. So it's just interesting, They're the advanced devotees, yet they still...
Yes, a natural... Sisi says that the symptom of a devotee is that he feels like he has no love. It's the symptom of a pure devotee. You can understand it because he feels he has no love himself. Yes, Ramakrishna and then Antarangafu. And then Ramapu is also breakfast time.
So, Prabhu, in the purport...
Yes.
And I think you also kind of spoke about it a little bit, that Krishna can engage in sex life by seeing. And then, of course, in the previous text,
yeah,
it is said that Krishna was engaged in ephemeral sex life. So then, if you can engage by seeing, right, why would he?
Yeah.
So someone may ask that question. How would you?
Yeah.
How would you answer that?
Yeah, as far as I understand, it's the devotee's desire to serve Krishna in a certain way. And Krishna reciprocates only with the love. So like I was saying, he feels the incense or he feels the glance in the same way as he feels accepting, or for example, the gopis offering their bodies to Krishna. He feels that in the same way. It's just about the exchange of love. But because they want to offer that to Krishna, and that's the kind of biggest surrender, I want to offer my entire body to you. I want to offer myself to you. This is the kind of epitome of what else can they offer, So because they want to offer that to Krishna, then Krishna accepts and reciprocates with that. as far as my understanding is. But he doesn't necessarily have to attain that same pleasure, because he can get that through anything, because it's just the love by which it's offered. Does that make sense?
Why would a pure devotee desire that Krishna enjoy me in this way?
It's a very elevated thing. It's the mood of the Vrajvasis we can't understand, because they have this pure love. They don't see Krishna as God. They think that, and that's their raganuga, that's their spontaneous devotion. So we can't kind of compare it to the same as a regulated devotee. And in the world of the practicing devotees, CC says, Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi. That externally, even if someone internally has this mood, then they should still externally act as a normal devotee. So that's within the realm of devotion as of sadhakas. But then, it's hard to compare that to the way the Vrajvasis or the eternal associates of Krishna want to offer themselves, because they have this spontaneous love. But it's very elevated.
I just found one very, very nice verse from the 10th canto in the pastime of Sudama Vipra, Sudama Brahmana. And this is from I think chapter 81. This is text 37. And it's very interesting just because he says, basically, Sudama Vipra is glorifying Krishna, but he said, I can't do this without the association of the devotees. So this is the translation. The Lord is supremely compassionate reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Life after life may I serve him with love, friendship, and may I cultivate such firm attachment for him by the precious association of his devotees. So I think it's just very beautiful that we actually can't practice alone. May I cultivate my attachment for him with the precious association of his devotees. It's very nice.
It's nice. Another point in C.C. Kaviraj Goswami says that I'm slipping, I'm falling all the time, but the mercy of the devotee is like a stick, and it's holding me onto the path. But otherwise I'm slipping, and it's beautiful. Okay, the Mataji's also have a question, but you had a comment on the previous...
Just another question. So this example that you gave of Srila Prabhupada, when the rats were there, we should chant. So what does that mean practically? What is the practical application? Should we not clean the temple room and just chant?
No, I think it's a principle that we should have very, very strong spiritual life, and by internally being very pure and very clean, then externally, naturally things will follow. But not that we should, I'm sure Prabhupada wouldn't want us to neglect cleaning the temple room, but I think the principle was that to be very, very sincere in our spiritual practice, well, naturally the externals will kind of follow on from that. Okay, there's one more question from them, and then we should finish breakfast. Flick it up. Just turn it, just push it right to the top. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you. To qualify and understand the way in which our material senses work, we need a guide. That is the Guru. The basis of spiritual life in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. No? Orienting the consciousness is not enough. It must be directed, otherwise Maya, material nature, will always take over. The senses play a fundamental role because they act on our mind. So what is the secret to maintaining focus? Can you give an example of how devotional service can help us?
Maintain focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these principles that we spoke about, one of them is association. It's so powerful just to be around focused devotees, and when you see that someone's really into it, they're really into their chanting, they're reading 1-2 hours a day and studying, and then you're like, okay, I should also do something. So association is so powerful, probably the most, at least for me, maybe others have different, but probably for me, just being around those kind of devotees which are really going deep. And like I said, when those 3 days my spiritual master took 192 rounds a day, and I was like, I really need to, so then the next day after that I tried to do 64 rounds and do my little and just try something, so by that association we gain such inspiration. For me that's the most powerful thing. Others might have different kind of
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we should finish there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.